Yo, what's up everybody? Jumpin here, and today I'm going to be bringing you another Mass Effect 3 gameplay commentary. I'm going to be using the Blood Pack Punisher today, which is a new, blacklisted, ultra-rare Reckoning DLC weapon, and it's the new SMG. Now, being that this is an ultra-rare and blacklisted, you would expect this gun to be extremely good, and at times, it definitely falls into that category. It's a very powerful gun against armor. That is where this gun really shines, is against armor. It's kind of designed for that, but there's definitely flaws to this gun. And the main one that I should bring up right away is the freaking recoil is unbearable at times. Even on a Turian, it can be very difficult. Now, on a Turian, if you hip fire this gun, honestly, it's really not that bad. But if you want to aim in and get that more precise shot, it's just really terrible. Now, you might be wondering, well, why do I not have any recoil? The reason for that is because I am using the stability equipment on top of the fact that I'm using a Turian. Because without it, yeah, I would have really bad recoil. The recoil primarily comes from the armor-piercing shot that this gun fires. If you didn't know, the unique thing about this gun is that it fires an armor-piercing round every so often, like maybe 3 or 4 bullets it will fire an armor-piercing round. It comes primarily from the whole Blood Pack, Forcha. They created the gun. They're too stupid to know how to install armor-piercing ammo into the gun, so instead they fucked up and it only fires 1 armor-piercing shot every 3 or 4 bullets. It's kind of gimmicky, but that also is what causes the terrible recoil. Whenever you get the armor-piercing shot to occur, no joke, your recoil will jump to the sky. So, if you want to avoid that, you really have to use a ton of different recoil options. Now, for the attachments I'm using on this gun, I'm using the extended barrel and I'm using extended magazines. Now, is that the best attachments for the gun? I don't know, it's really up to you. Heatsink is something that this gun could use on the Turian, because if you're going to use marksman, you're going to blow through ammo very quickly. That's just how it goes. So heatsink extended mags is normally a pretty good choice for a marksman-like build. You could also use the heavy barrel, which it gives you armor piercing, and the armor piercing for the SMG is so good, it's like having armor piercing 4 on, without actually using an armor piercing 4. The thing it doesn't do is that it doesn't give you any type of extra damage. So, but you can combine that with different things and still walk away with a pretty solid gun. What I mean is this, is that you could put the piercing mod on an SMG, strap on incendiary ammo or warp rounds, and do a lot of damage. So that's something you could try if you want. So really the attachments really come down to what you want to use, but what I would recommend, extended mags, extended barrel if you want to use an armor piercing 4 actual ammo. If you do not want to use one of those, then definitely try it with piercing and maybe extended mags, or you can always strap on heatsink as well. It just really depends on what you want to use. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into this gun. This gun is kind of ridiculous at times. It's pretty good, especially against armor. It works like magic against armor. Now, I've tried this on different builds outside of the Turian Soldier. And I can honestly say that when I tried it, it was kind of mediocre. I didn't really like it too much. At first, I think I tried it on the Turian Sentinel. I thought that would be a good idea. I just didn't like it. The DPS on it wasn't really all that high. Especially if you stack it against, the Hurricane. Because honestly, guys, the Hurricane is still the better choice for a submachine gun. And that's really one of the biggest problems I have with a gun like this. And a lot of the guns in the game. There's a ton of guns in this game, especially the DLC weapons that would come out. And although they're ultra rare, they're on the same rarity of a certain gun like the Hurricane and the Blood Pack Punisher. You kind of just tell yourself, well, the Hurricane is such a better gun, or is an overall better gun. Why not just use the Hurricane? If I'm going to play a Turian Soldier with marksman and I want to use an SMG, 9 times out of 10 I would probably choose the Hurricane over a gun like this. But this gun still has a lot of uses. Like I said, it has this really good damage against armor. And in fact, no joke, I can mow down armored enemies like Banshees and Brutes and all that faster with this gun on this Marksman at times than I can with a Cerberus Harrier 10 on the Turian Ghost. So that says a lot. Like, this gun's DPS against armor is quite insane. It's really, really, really high. And you could actually exploit that a little bit. Maybe like what you could do is use this gun as a sidearm. Like, you could maybe for some type of power-based character, you could use the Punisher and like the Alkalite. Use the Alkalite to take down the shields. Use the Punisher against armored targets. And you would probably overall walk away with a pretty solid like weapon lineup. And the weapons would be really light. So if you're using something with powers, obviously the weight wouldn't be that big of a factor. So that's something you could try. Another thing I never tried, which I was thinking about would be pretty good, would probably be the Geth Infiltrator with this. Now for that, I would definitely use the Piercing mod for the SMG, and I would use maybe Extended Mags or Heatsink, doesn't really matter. But what I would definitely do is, I would use those, put on the Geth Infiltrator, and put like incendiary ammo on, and then just sit there and shoot them with proxy mine, get fire explosions and all that. I think that would be an extremely solid choice as well. So that is something you can also try. I think that would work. And I base that off the fact that I love the Hurricane on the Turian Soldier, but I also really love the Hurricane on the Geth Infiltrator. So I would imagine the Blood Pack Punisher would be pretty good on the Infiltrator as well. I didn't use it for this gameplay because I know that some of you guys are probably really sick of me using infiltrators. I use them quite a bit, especially when I play casually. So I'm sorry about that, guys, but one thing you have to realize, when I'm demonstrating a gun, I need to use it on something that can demonstrate the gun very well. So soldiers and infiltrators are normally the best option for that. Primarily the Turian Soldier, because of marksmen and all that. And also different infiltrators because they demonstrate guns very well. So anyway, now if you're going to use this gun on this Turian, which I highly recommend, believe me, the Turian is the one you want to use it on. Marksman is an extremely effective power with this gun. Although when you shoot this gun faster, you're going to have more recoil, and when you have the armor-piercing bullet occur, the recoil is going to be even more ridiculous. But of course, you can counter that with stability. I already talked about that. But this gun is extremely effective with marksman, because when you want to do that insane amount of damage to the armor, I really think that comes from that armor-piercing shot. So to get that shot to occur, you have to blow through 3 or 4 shots, and then eventually you'll have the armor-piercing shot. So marksman really accelerates that. Like, you will have that occur so often. And that's really what makes it so amazing against armor. Marksman just really ups the DPS of any SMG and really any gun. So with this gun, the only downside I can see to this gun is the recoil can be really, really bad on it at times, primarily from the armor-piercing shot. That is when the recoil really kicks in and can drive you a little crazy. But outside of that, and on top of it, I do think the Hurricane is a better gun. That's the only other downside to the gun. This is a pretty solid gun. At first I didn't like it. Like I said, I tried it on a different build, and I thought it was kind of mediocre. That's actually a downside as well. I kind of just forgot about that. I would say that outside of a Turian Soldier, there is a chance that this gun might not be all that great. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't really have this gun at a very high level. I have it at a level 4. And on this Turian Soldier, man, this thing is, it just destroys armored targets. It just really does some serious damage to enemies. Really high DPS. But I would imagine outside of a Turian Soldier, it wouldn't be all that great. And I would probably highly recommend using this gun, just like a lot of SMGs like the Hurricane. I would also recommend using Marksman primarily. Now, when I say use Marksman, I don't mean go try this on a Quarian Marksman. Because the Quarian Marksman is pretty freaking mediocre. And a lot of the Retaliation characters, I thought, was kind of mediocre. And I probably would never find myself using them again, like the Vorcha Hunter. that engineer is like so whatever. Incinerate, submission net. If I want to use a Vorcha with fire, I'm just going to go use one of the ones that have flamer. Submission net is a okay power, but it does tend to miss a lot. So that kind of sucks. And Bloodlust, we all know what that does, but once again, the other Vorchas have Bloodlust. Another one I thought was pretty mediocre was the Quarian Marksman. If I want to use Marksman, just do it on a Turian. He gets the stability and he has higher passive powers. So that is pretty much like what I normally would do. But the one thing about, I will say one good thing about the Quarian Marksman, if you want to use him effectively, you could of course always just strap on Particle Rifle. Particle Rifle on him is actually really good because he's all about getting headshots. And with the Particle Rifle, it's a really easy gun to aim and all that. And with Marksman, that's also pretty good. So that's something about the Quarian Marksman. He's not all like, he's not like god awful, but compare him to like the Turian, nah, you don't want to try it. At least that's what I think. Anyway, so like I said, the Punisher is definitely a interesting gun on this guy. I don't know, could I like highly recommend this on any type of build? Maybe as a sidearm, just as something to try to bust out against armor. Because I would imagine that if you were going against armor targets on any build and you bust this out, it would probably do a decent amount of damage to it. Although, outside of a Turian, and especially if you do not have stability, this thing would probably kick pretty bad. So if you're going to use it as a sidearm, you might want to consider putting the stability mod on the gun. Because when you use sidearms primarily, I would think that it wouldn't be all that crucial to actually go for extended mags and heat sink, because you could totally strap on the stability and just bust it out in that situation. Like if you're going against something with armor, you just switch out to that sidearm, that Blood Pack Punisher, you shoot it at the armor, and then once you're done with that, you can just put it away, go back to your primary weapon, and use that to kill whatever other enemies you're fighting. So that is something I would definitely say you could do, use the stability over the heat sink or extended mags. But yeah, man, like this gun against armor, it really is crazy. Like, I don't know. It's kind of insane. Like, you could sit there and just mow down so many Reapers really quickly. I kind of love it in that aspect. It definitely falls into the second best SMG, I would imagine. I mean, I guess some people really like the Collector SMG for the whole, you know, use it on someone who uses a lot of power and you never have to reload and all that. And, you know, that's a pretty good, solid strategy there. But when it comes down to damage and all that, DPS, more than likely, I would imagine this is probably the second best SMG at this point in the game. And it's a damn shame. That's kind of how a lot of these guns, they fall in that category. Like, there's always that better choice. Like, I'm really dreading using the Spitfire, because the way I look at it is that if you're going to use something like the Spitfire, just use a Typhoon. Typhoon is actually really amazing. I remember when I did my video for it, I didn't really like it, but then again, I was pretty bummed out on the fact that when I used the Typhoon, I didn't get the chance to use it when it was so amazing. Because when it first came out, it was just something else. Absolutely godly. And then they nerfed it a couple times, and it definitely toned that gun down. And then when I did the video, I only had it at level 1. I didn't really like it as much. But recently, I've been using it on this Turian Soldier, and I can honestly say that gun is absolutely amazing at the higher levels. I have it at like level 7. It's pretty awesome, for sure. Oh yeah, by the way, the reason why I edit that out was because I got grabbed. I normally always do that, just to save some time and all that. Yeah, man, I don't know what it is, but when I play as a Turian, Banshees just, they want my nuts so bad. They come after me so hard, and I normally do get grabbed when I play with like the old school Turians that can't dodge. It could be a nightmare. Krogans as well. Like, Banshees love Turians, and they love Krogans. Probably Batarians, because they can't dodge, and they're like, I'm gonna get you. Bitches, man. Anyway, yeah, man, so the Typhoon is actually an extremely good gun. I can't wait to get that to 10. It is very powerful, for sure. The Spitfire is so mediocre if you stack it against the Typhoon, at least to me. So, I mean, I don't know, I'm kind of dreading doing that. The Suppressor as well is somewhat mediocre, only because the Suppressor is a good pistol, don't get me wrong. The Suppressor is a good gun, but the ammo on that gun is so stupid. I mean, the clip size is too small, the capacity is way too small. They really need to buff the crap out the capacity. Because if you think the Cerberus Harrier is really bad for like ammo, try playing the entire game with only a suppressor. You have to literally stand by an ammo box, otherwise you will never have ammo. I hate that. But it does do a lot of good things. Like the suppressor gets the headshot multiplier, that's really good. It's actually really powerful. The DPS on it in general, just by getting body shots, is extremely good as well. So suppressor's a good gun, but I think it's mediocre for just that ammo. I mean, and that's, like I said before, that's one thing I really hate, is that when you come out with these new guns, or when BioWare comes out with these new guns, it's always falls in that category, like, I can use this gun for fun for sure, like, I can play with it and just have a game where I use the Punisher, or when I use the Suppressor, or I use the Spitfire, and that's just fun. Maybe I want to get the challenge or something. But, will I do it again? Will I use it all the time? Probably not. Because if I'm going to like use a build that is designed for the Spitfire, I promise you the Typhoon would be probably 10 times better. So why not just use the Typhoon on that build instead? I don't know. That's just me though. Anyway, this game's kind of wrapping up. Overall, this Punisher is actually pretty good. I will say that, especially on this Turian. If you're going to try this gun and you want to use it to the maximum potential, definitely do it on the Turian Soldier. Maybe try it on the Gep Infiltrator, and of course you can always use it as a sidearm, maybe just to bust out against armor. That's something you can also try. Is it the best SMG in the game? No. I think the Hurricane is still better for sure. Is it the second best SMG in the game? I would say that it probably is the second best. That is how I feel, at least. The DPS against armor is really high. It is really cool in that aspect. The recoil is really bad, for sure. The recoil can really drive you crazy, especially when you get the armor-piercing bullet. That is really annoying. But you can always get over that pretty quickly. And if you just use the stability and all that, you really won't have much of a problem. I like the gun. I kind of do. I can see myself maybe using it against Reapers on the Turian Soldier, you know, just for fun. But more than likely, I would still choose the Hurricane for a better all-around gun. Anyway, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this. Please like and favorite this video for me. I would really appreciate that. And you guys have a nice day.